Yeah, this one's going to be a very quick members only stream again, right? So I I've been asked a couple of questions, maybe from the post I did earlier on Tradingview, but in terms of the volume profile. Now, one of the things, obviously, I'm still working on this one at the moment with Peter Hammer, right? So this one obviously not ready anyway, and it's not actually part of the kind of the set of indicators that you guys got, right? So ignore what I'm doing with this. This is more for kind of teaching you guys rather than for you to use it, right? I think obviously after the conversation in the visitor section today, this got to be more about the learning rather than the spoon feeding, right? So kind of this indicator is just not, it's not what you need, right? However, showing what this indicator is trying to highlight, showing how this works. All we have on the right hand side is this fixed range volume profile, right? So in theory, when you look at what you have here, right, you've got the projections and then you've got the volume base. So on the left hand side, you've obviously got the ability to scroll down and find the fixed range. Now, the way that you ultimately use that is it's kind of personal to you. It's personal to how you're looking at, kind of time frame wise. For me personally, I look at this on a relatively large scale, and I look at two or three versions of the same thing, right? So what I'll do is I'll show you. So I'm looking at this as a big swing. If I zoom out or zoom in, right? Now I can do a couple of things. I can say to myself, right, let's take it from the low here and we take it to the high there, right? There's the first area. So clear point of control here, right? Blue area, value area high, blue area, value area low. We've obviously got a little bit of volume down here and a very big gap there, right? So if I was to project that into the future, this particular gap there, right, is something that ultimately ends up getting filled, filled. So the way that I would read this is that technically underneath that gap, we've actually got an awful lot of liquidity, right? And it's kind of as simple as that, right? So, ultimately, when we then scroll across and we get rid of these a second, right? What we can then do is say, okay, well, this is quite far back in the past compared to the current view, right? And this is why I'm saying it's kind of individual to you in terms of what you're trying to trade, where you're trying to trade. You don't need this much data if obviously you're looking at just this kind of first swing, right? So there's nothing stopping you saying, well, actually, let's put this on this particular swing, right? Just to see where we're going to look at into the future, right? So value area, point of control, down, right? Now, in terms of the Mayfair 1 indicator, right, what I've actually done here is I've used this in how I personally would use this, right? So from this point of view, I'm looking at the large swing. We technically in a downtrend, right? We've got these lower highs, lower lows. So overall, I'm starting from the high. Now I can do one of two things, right? And I normally do both. I normally start like this, right? So there's my first area of interest. So as you can see, point of control overlaps with the value area low. And ultimately, we've got this large area of liquidity. So in theory, we've come up and we've swept it, and we've come up and we've swept it. And at the moment, we come in up technically for a triple top, right? Which means in a downtrend, my anticipation would still be to push down further, right? As I can see on a smaller time frame. So in theory, what you can then do is you can now do as many of these as you actually want. This is, again, like I said, personal to your strategy, personal to how you want to use this, right? And for me, what I want to do then is the second one. Now, I could do, again, one of two things. I could start in the same place and scroll all the way across to the local bottom. And this is more in line with the indicator. Or I can start at this part of the swing high for a kind of more zoomed in view. But obviously this isn't in tune with how I'm looking at it first. I'm looking at the big picture. I'm always looking at the big picture. So nothing's really going to change in that small picture until the big picture has a change of character. And therefore, the main interest for me is here and all the way across to the local low. Right? That gives me enough information as to where we are, right? What we're anticipating next if we fall off, right? What happens, obviously, something like this over here. We've got a complete and utter drop off in this area, right? We've obviously got massive volume playing in this area, right? And we've obviously got quite a large profile here. Okay, so the way that I'm reading this right now is technically we're in a downtrend until we're not. We've almost got a hard stop up here because there's almost no interest in terms of an upside play. If this coincides with DXY dropping, then obviously this is likely to rally. However, what I'd be looking for now is, in terms of stochastic, any kind of news event, anything that kind of gives me a clue that this is almost kind of already done. Right? So what I'm seeing right now is we're sweeping these local highs. We're coming into liquidity above the kind of the higher time frame levels, and therefore I'm anticipating a nice little drop as we get some DXY strength into the local level, which is the magnetic pull to this, right? So it's not really that complicated. It's nothing really major in terms of what it is. As I've explained in a couple of the other videos, you're able to see this type of volume without the volume tool when you start to understand, why. If you're going to get big gaps, if you get gaps like this in a move, you can clearly see there'll be less volume there. If you start seeing clusters going sideways, there's going to be more volume. And, in the long run, what you'll start to do is to start to visualize this type of profile before you actually stick the profile tool on the chart. All right? Anyway, I hope this helps. Just as a quick reminder, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down, and then scroll down to the volume based, and it's in the center, fixed range volume profile tool. You can actually find this as well if you come into the indicators. You come to the technicals, across to profiles, and then it's this one obviously here, the fourth one down there as well. All right. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this one. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you on the next stream.